the Piper interview was very fortuitous. I mean, Gene was extremely close. Gene LaBelle was extremely close with Roddy, and when Roddy came to LA, he trained at Gene's dojo, and they became almost. Roddy had a really tough life and didn't really have many father figures, and if there was anyone who was a father figure to Roddy, it was Gene. And we did the interview about 2.5 months before he died. And it was one of the most memorable experiences of my life, in that Roddy was annoyed at my line of questioning, and he turned the camera on me, and I was Roddy. I was incredible, and I was so not like, it being one of the first interviews that I did in the process to take on Roddy, which wasn't my thought to take on Roddy, but it was certainly his thought to teach me a lesson, which was really uncomfortable. But then then we came to an understanding, and then he really opened up. But he wasn't pleased with me in the beginning, and made it clear to me. But it was, it made for an incredible interview in the end. And I was really honored to meet him and get a chance to see that brilliant mind at work.
Why was he so annoyed at you at first?
Well, I had interviewed, I think before I'd interviewed Roddy, I'd interviewed like the Destroyer, for example, who's another incredible wrestler. And he was openly using terms like babyface and heel and sort of insider terms. And so I had started to use insider terms in my interview, and he wasn't, Roddy was all about protecting the business, and he felt like I hadn't earned the right to start talking about those kinds of terms. And so when I was talking about the entertainment side of the business, he really wanted me to respect him as a wrestler first. And he didn't think I was doing that. And so he wanted for me to understand that. And so he started asking me, so what makes a professional wrestler? What makes a successful professional wrestler? And I was like, well, he needs to, someone needs to really work hard. And, I was giving him, I guess, what he considered kind of generic answers, because I honestly didn't know what he was looking for, really. And he was just, no, really, like he was drilling down what makes a professional wrestler. And he wouldn't let me go. No, he let me turn the camera on you, and he made them turn the camera on me, and I'm sweating, and I'm fumbling, and I'm trying, and I am failing badly. And then he kind of bails me out and explains to me what, in his mind, a professional wrestler is, which isn't in the movie, but I have all that. I've been working on a side Piper project based on that, because it just is such a spectacularly interesting look inside the mind of someone I considered kind of a genius, and really, like, the mind of Piper, the sharpness, the wit, for someone who never went to school, who was like a homeless kid, who whatever. I mean, I worked with I was in the music business for a long time, and I worked with some really smart, brilliant people like George Carlin, and I considered like Piper's brain to be on that same level of just someone who was sparkly sharp, who understood just very smart, really brilliant, how he understood wrestling, how he understood character development, how he understood the world. and so it was really kind of a magical thing. So it was really, yeah, that was a great.
Well, let's talk about why you wanted to interview Roddy in the first place. Let's just jump right into the significance of Roddy Piper to the Olympic and the significance of the Olympic to pro wrestling, amongst many other things. But let's just jump into that aspect of it.
Well, I mean, Piper came to LA and was a babyface. Mm-hmm. If I dare use those terms.
I'm not going to turn the camera on you. It's
okay. He was, a lot of people know his story, but he came from Canada and ended up in LA, had made a few little diversions into the US, but ended up in the LA territory. When he first came here, he was a babyface. Leo Garibaldi, who was the matchmaker at the Olympic, said, we want to turn him heel here in LA. Mm-hmm. And Mike LaBelle, who was the promoter, said, no, like that's crazy. No, we're not going to do that. And apparently Garibaldi took him to San Diego. They turned him heel in San Diego and then brought him back to LA. And of course, he found his, his natural spot. And it was perfect timing. The LA territory was really struggling at that time. They'd changed. Jules Strongbow had been the promoter for decades, and he had left. And they really had lost a lot of their audience. And it was kind of, this is the mid to late 70s. It was kind of, on its last legs. And he came in and was the perfect foil for Chavo Guerrero, mm-hmm. who was the baby face in LA, and a succession of heels had come in and worked with him. Paul the Butcher Vachon, and others, but Piper really, really knew how to enrage a crowd and was fearless, and really, really, he was young, he was dynamic, and he was fearless, and he really, really, the bagpipe gimmick, he played it for all it's worth. He infuriated the Mexican American fans, and as he says in the film, it was the first time where he had a microphone, where he put a microphone in his hand, and where he got a chance to be a star, and then basically the rest is history.